With us now, Congressman Adam Smith, ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee. Welcome back to the program, sir. Good to see you. At what point do you think a strike on Iran would be justified?
Well, I think it's difficult to say. I think it would be justified if Iran was really close to getting a nuclear weapon. And we've long looked at the intel on this. They've built a lot of different pieces of it. But our intel has always told us they've not made the decision to actually build the bomb. If they made that decision and went forward, I think a military option to try to reduce that would absolutely be legitimate. Now, as you know, and as we've discussed before, this is about more than just Iran building a nuclear weapon. But yes, if they were close to a nuclear weapon, I think that would be justified.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. There's been two parts of this. The thing that has sort of spurred this latest push, one carrier strike group moving into the Middle East, massive amounts of air power, now a possible second carrier strike group, was the protests in Iran to overthrow the Ayatollah, which was put down with brutal force. The Jerusalem Post now saying IRGC, meaning the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, killing protesters in hospital beds, target medical staffs, Iranian doctor tells Post, and also says that this has been going on every day with thousands upon thousands slaughtered. And President Trump made the point that that there is a possibility of strikes on Iran, not just because of the nuclear program, because of the protesters. And that you don't seem to think would justify this killing and slaughter, would justify strikes.
Yeah, I don't. I think that it's a problem because there's a lot of places across the world where this sort of thing has happened. A massive civil war in Syria. There's a massive civil war in Sudan. There was a civil war in Ethiopia. Obviously, there was the genocide in Rwanda, a while back.
Sure.
Is it
they don't all chant death to America.
Yeah, there was a slaughter in Libya. Well, then you're raising a different issue. But if you're focused on the issue of whether or not the regime is killing,
I'm focused on the triangulation. But you just brought up Libya. I think it's an important one because you had a guy who was a known sponsor of terror, although Gaddafi wasn't nearly as successful at it as the Iranians. There was an uprising there, and there was U.S. military action. U.S. military action this June 2011 that you supported. Take a listen.
Yeah.
I do think it's true that if Gaddafi thinks we're about to pull the plug and not continue, that makes it more likely that he will stick around. But that's a policy debate that we have every right to have here. I think there's an enormous amount of pressure on Gaddafi right now. Some of his top-level people are abandoning him. He is an international pariah with no support from anywhere. And I think if he thinks that pressure is going to continue, he's much more likely to step aside and get us to a peaceful solution there sooner.
So if it was good to bomb Gaddafi's regime to try to push him out, he was sort of the little evil. I think the Iranians are a lot bigger evil. So why is it not good to bomb Iran?
Yeah, I looked better like 15 years ago, by the way. That's painful to just look at.
Didn't we all?
Damn, the aging process. No, I was wrong. Okay. I think we all... Yeah, when we moved into Libya, there was that feeling. It's like Gaddafi is slaughtering his people. It was the exact same argument. And, it was a compelling argument. We send the military in. We're going to fix this. All right. And we learned, it didn't really work out that way. Yes, we stopped Gaddafi from killing that particular group of people, but we've had a 15-year brutal civil war since then. Libya has become a major exporter of terrorists and all kinds of organized criminals that has destabilized the entire Sahel. I mean, you've got Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, all of these regimes now under enormous pressure from groups. And part of it is, terrorists and guns and drugs being run through Libya. I was wrong. It was seductively simple. Gaddafi, bad guy, get rid of him, something better will follow. We learned that's not the case. So I learned from that regime change is seductive, but it also leads to much bigger problems. And Iran is a much more powerful country than Libya. All right, they're going to fight back, and
I would give you, I would give you the opposite in the counter argument, which I think is a powerful one. Although I was on the ground in Libya when the bombing was happening and saw how it might end up, and was also seduced of how good it would be if Gaddafi left. But Iran, you have an evil that means that there is nothing worse for the Iranian people than what they are living under now. And number two, you have a country that has a history of being friendly to the West pre-1979. And to that point, why not give these people a chance?
Well, what chance are we going to give them? Okay, so let's say that we use those aircraft carriers and we drop a bunch of bombs. That can weaken Iran. Can it affect regime change? Can an air campaign bring about regime change? And I'll tell you the answer to that question.
Good question.
No, is the answer to that question. And I don't think you'd disagree. All right? So,
well, it can protect the protesters on the ground, and it can keep the IRGC from getting out of their base.
Okay, for how long?
Okay.
You drop a bunch of bombs, you disrupt them a little bit. If you want to do what you are talking about, and this is the same thing in Libya, all right? Are you going to go in and do it? Are you going to go in? You're going to
sustain long-term. I mean, no, it's a great. It's
on the ground.
You're
going to make that change. Look,
it's a great point.
That's part of the reason why I oppose term limits. Okay, experience does help. You know, if you've been there, had to make the decisions, had to live with anchors like you clipped from 15 years ago and saying, here's what you said, it gives you an experience in what actually happens when you make these decisions. And that's why I think it would be a mistake if we decided that we're going to do regime change in Iran. Now, keeping pressure on them
regime change for them
to limit their power
is a different thing. That's fair.
Absolutely. But if you're talking about, hey, we got to get rid of they're bad people, that's a tougher thing.
Yeah. Well, as you say, history has taught us some tough lessons with that. Congressman Adam Smith, thank you very much for your candor as always. You're welcome back anytime.